Today I'm going to be asking the question, are we over-reliant on technology? Hello everyone, my name is Harmony. If you're a new viewer to my channel, welcome, or if you're a returning viewer, welcome back. On this channel I talk about anything that springs to mind and is worth contemplating and discussing. Today I thought I would ask a question, are we a bit too reliant on technology? And so I'll start with the good points. In terms of being used as a tool to help achieve whatever it is you're trying to achieve, I think technology definitely has its place. If you are somebody who can't read print, there is both software and hardware that can help with that. Like it does optical character recognition and will read the text back to you, and you can, if you're somebody that has trouble hearing, you can get digital hearing aids, as I've shown on this channel. Also, as a tool for communication, you can people who are non-verbal for whatever reason can have these machines where they'll type something and have the machine read it out, or various things in that area. But even in general terms, I think computers and internet and phones, electronic tablets, those kind of things, again, they have a place, but if they're used correctly. So you know, with the internet, of course, it allows you to keep in touch with everyone and anyone, which is a good and a bad thing, because in a way it's lovely to keep in touch with those that you care about and want to be hearing from all the while, but it also, with being in a sense available 24 hours, it's also not such a good thing, because sometimes you don't feel like hearing from the world. And in some ways the internet has it's allowed us to communicate with people on the other side of the world if we want, but it also means that we're more disconnected in a way, because you can, well, the amount of people that have been in the same room and either been sat there on their phones or on their computers or whatever it might be, and not even engaging with the person next to them, or with the person that they're there with. You see it in cafes and restaurants, I'm thinking, as well. People will be talking not to each other but on the phones, and I'm thinking to myself, why? You're there with your friends or your family or whoever it is. Surely it should be them that you're having a conversation with. Or if not, well, why are you there? Why are you there with them if you're not actually intending to talk to them? Something that I've also never agreed with, speaking of mobile phones, I've never agreed with giving children any kind of mobile device, really. When we were kids, it was a case of if your parents or whoever you lived with wanted to know where you were, well, they would know that anyway, because guess what? You planned in advance where you wanted to go, or it was already pre-arranged, or they would have a pretty good idea where you were anyway, so they would contact somebody there. So, does anyone remember the days of, like, your parents phoning your friend's parents' house, or your grandparents' house, or whoever it was that you went to stay with? Now apparently that's not a thing that is done for some reason. Like, which to me just boggles the mind. Surely adults responsible for the kids should do that kind of thing. But my views aside, in a way, I think if they're only used as a tool for for communicating in, say, an emergency, or if there's no other way of getting hold of somebody, then they, mobile phones definitely have a place. And, we're all just as guilty as anyone of using phones for convenience. I mean, how many times, me included, have you asked the phone, oh, what's the weather in so-and-so, or some random nonsense like that? But when we were kids, and even teenagers actually, it was such that, yes, more and more people had mobile phones, but it was still not an expected thing, if you will. So when I was at secondary school, when I was in my last year of primary school, we had this day where you'd go to your secondary school and see what it was going to be like for the day. like go to some example lessons. Like we went to a French lesson, and I think we went to a history lesson, that kind of thing. Uh, we had this assembly at the end of the end of the school day, and at the end there was time where we could ask questions, and this girl next to me, I always remember the question she asked was, are we allowed to bring mobile phones? And I thought to myself, first of all, you're 11 years old, how can you even possess a mobile phone? Like, you're not old enough to pay for it, you probably don't have a job because you're a child. You know, like, none of us has a job at 11. And even if you do, you probably don't have enough money to pay for it, and your parents are probably the ones paying it for you for some strange reason. Like, why do you need a mobile phone anyway? Now at that time, mobile phones were absolutely not allowed for students at my school. So it was the kind of situation where you had to, like, you know, no mobile phones were allowed, full stop. So if you did bring a mobile phone and you were caught using it, well, you got another thing coming, because you handed it in until the end of the day, or the end of the week, or sometimes till the end of the term, end of the semester, whatever you call it. And then by the time I was in year 9, so the third year out of 5 of my high school, it relaxed the rules a fair amount for some strange reason. So it was then kind of a semi-written rule that if you had a mobile phone, you could use it during break and lunch times, or after you finish the school day, but otherwise it had to be switched off. But of course that immediately got breached, because everyone by that time was playing, I don't know, Snake or whatever other nonsense game was on the phone. And to me, at that time, the idea of having a game on a phone was like, what? It was as absurd as having a camera on a phone. Like, why? No, I didn't have my first mobile phone until I was 17, so what, 2006, nearly 17. And the only reason then that I got a mobile phone was because I was about to start college, and I didn't know at that time that we had a landline phone in the bedroom, and if I'd known that, I probably wouldn't have even bothered with a mobile phone then for like another year or so. Anyway, I digress. Technology is also great if you want to, like, have some fun, play some online or offline games or whatever. Personally, I would, if I'm going to do something offline, I would sooner play an actual game, like a proper board game, Scrabble, chess, something like that. Even Sudoku, that kind of thing. But yeah, most of the time when people say they're going to play a game, they are referring to some kind of console game or some kind of computer game, whatever. Which, yes, I play the very occasional computer game if I have absolutely nothing better to do, but yeah, again, I think it's great when you're just having a bit of fun for a limited amount of time, but when it becomes something that you do all the time, then no, like why? And personally, I think in using technology, it's made humans in a way stupider, because I can ask a question now and most people will have to consult the phone or consult the computer or whatever device they have around. Whereas I would sooner, if I didn't know something, I would sooner either just say that I didn't know or consult a book before going online to find whatever the answer might be. So a few years ago, in 2019, when I was travelling around a bit, I spent some time down in Bristol and Brighton and various places in that area. And when I was in Bristol, I asked some people that I assumed lived in the area, and I was in the town, in the city centre, so I was going to take a bus back to the hostel I was staying at, because it's the city centre and the buses do loops, or like a circular route, something like that. So I thought, well, it doesn't really matter where I get on the bus, just as long as I get off at the right place. And all the buses go that way. So I asked somebody, hey, where is the nearest bus stop? And nobody could answer me where the nearest bus stop is without consulting their phone. And I thought to myself, what? Why? First of all, if somebody asked me something like that, I would walk down the street and actually look for the bus stop, or probably already know where the bus stop was if I lived there, and if that was something that I used, or at least know where the bus stop was likely to be. I didn't even know until then that things like that were marked on a map. I just thought, well, I wouldn't even expect a bus stop actually to be, I don't know, are they on Ordnance Survey maps? I've seen level crossings and picnic areas and those things on Ordnance Survey maps. It might be, but I wouldn't expect it to be on like a GPS map because it's not an actual address, if anyone knows what I mean. So that really threw me, but eventually I managed to get a bus stop and get back, but still I was like thinking to myself, I really don't like that. Like you can't even tell me how to get from A to B without consulting your phone. And what are you gonna do if there's no signal, as there normally is not a signal in city centres or town centre because they're so built up. And if you go out to the countryside, there's not going to be a signal there either because, well, there are fewer phone masts and things, as there should be. Anyway, in that sense, I think people are way too reliant on technology because it used to be such that you would have to actually learn where things were, how to get places, like if you live in an area, you learn to get places by either going there on a regular basis, or you would get a map of the area and study the said map. But now I don't even know that you can get maps of local areas, can you? You should be able to. Because, again, what are you going to do? I've only ever known one taxi driver to carry an actual map book. You remember those big book things that had street maps and maps of cities, towns, areas in them? I've only known one driver to carry one of those. The rest of them just punch a postcode into whatever sat-nav system they're using and expect that it'll take them there, and then wonder why they get sent the wrong way or sent some way that is not conducive to the current situation. Maybe there's roadworks or a field or something weird. Well, not weird, but yeah. But yeah. Also, people don't sit there and wonder about anything anymore. Like, they don't actually have time to think, which I personally think is by design because, well, obviously no one wants anyone to think for themselves anymore. Everyone is expected to have instant I don't know if gratification is the right word, but things have become so fast-paced now that when you slow down, it's like, wow, this is actually a lot more calmer and more peaceful, and we actually have time to think of this, whatever the thing is, and time to realize actually what you said over there doesn't make any sense, or what you said makes perfect sense, or here is why I don't agree with what so-and-so says, or here is why I think it's the best idea in the world. There's none of that anymore, or very little of it anyway. I've heard this MapQuest thing mentioned, by the way, in terms of getting from A to B. Has anyone used MapQuest? I think MapQuest really missed us, because I never heard of it till I got older, like actually very recently, like the last year or two. I heard of MapQuest, but in the times when it was apparently quite the popular thing to use, we were still either still using paper maps or went straight to sat-navs like TomTom, and there might have been one or two others, I can't remember. And of course now everyone does so much on the mobile phone. And I also ask, are touchscreens really such a good idea? I personally absolutely hate them. I think they should just be abolished. The only thing I like about them, maybe, and that's a big capital M for maybe, is you can, with accessibility features, you can get something of a description as to the layout of the screen, and you get to know what's where. But beyond that, like, you can't do anything fast when you're typing on a touchscreen or a touchpad or any of these things, really. That's why I still keep, well, I had to get another one because I'd sold mine years ago. But I have a Nokia N95 around because, well, my original one was the one with the 8GB built-in, 8GB storage built-in, but this one isn't, but that's beside the point for the purpose of this conversation. I keep it around because you never know when you're going to need to dial the number like really fast, or if you want to send a text, yes, you can spend a bit of time fiddling about with the text and editing it because you're pressing your buttons, but you can text that little bit faster than you can on a touch screen. Same as if I'm using a keyboard of some description, like a keyboard on a braille display or a keyboard like a computer keyboard, Bluetooth keyboard, whatever. I type a lot faster on those than I do when I'm using the touch screen. And of course there are good things that I like about technology, like being able to edit videos is amazing. And being able to keep in contact with people on the other side of the world is awesome. And that kind of thing. So, yeah, a bit of both. But it's a known fact, if you will, now that sadly so many people are really bad at telling you information. Like, they won't be able to tell you the information that you're looking for, but they'll be able to tell you where to find that information. Which to me is backwards, because if I ask for a piece of information, I expect that information. I don't expect to be told where to go to find it, because otherwise I would already have looked there. Or is that just me? Anyway, I have probably gone on long enough now. What do you guys think? Are we too reliant on technology? Are things better now than they used to be? Or not? Sometimes I find myself wondering a lot. What can we do now that we couldn't do, say, 10, 15, 20 years ago? Because back in, say, 2010, we had phones with a camera on. We had GPS. We had all these things then. Sure, they may or may not have become more accurate. But I also think that with the so-called progression, I put that in inverted commas because, and say so-called because, well, it's, for me, I find the supposed progression actually more of a regression, in that you might get more hard drive, more RAM, more processor speed, which is great, but at the same time you get, in a lot of cases anyway, you get no or very little onboard hardware and no place to put any hardware. In, say, new computer cases, you can't put a CD drive or a floppy disk drive or, I don't know, more USB ports or even an Ethernet port, anything like that now. And how many devices now do you see that have no headphone jack? Like, really, who does that? No headphone jack? Why? The batteries don't last forever, people. Surely anyone that knows anything about electronics, technology, whatever, knows this. So even if you do use Bluetooth headphones or earphones or whatever, they're still going to need charging at some point, as is the phone or the tablet or whatever. And so surely it would make a lot more sense to just leave those things in. And do technology companies like Apple, like Microsoft, like HP, Dell, Acer, whoever, like manufacturers, do they actually ask users what they want in their hardware? I've never seen anything of that sort. Like, I've never seen any such a survey. So I actually find some of the newer things to be less productive than the slightly older things. Unless you have something that's really like crazy powerful, then sure. So a bit of both on my part, I think. In some ways we are, technology is a good tool, but in some ways we are a bit way too reliant on it and using it in situations where it's completely unnecessary. Leave me a comment and let's have a discussion and see what you guys think. You know what, I'm not even going to bother to edit this video. I think I'm just going to turn up the volume on it because this camera records not quite so good volume, and I don't talk that loud at times, so I'll turn the volume up. But apart from that, I'm just going to throw this up on YouTube and see what happens. For once. But yeah, feel free to like, subscribe, comment, and I will see all of you in the next video.